I also been really into
Do you want to go piss first before you go into whatever you're about to go into? What were you gonna say?
goodbye.
No, what were you gonna say so I remember when you come back? No, okay, I'll monologue. Hey guys, LED lights are pretty cool. The only reason why I'm thinking about that is because I see a shelf with like a box of LED lights, and I don't think we've ever used those ever. So LED lights are kind of cool. Um, I think it's kind of dumb that we put them on everything now. Like some things are like kind of cool, but if it's like on a water warmer that I used to have, this isn't really a monologue. It's kind of like a small rant. I don't actually know how to monologue. I mean, well, is a monologue a rant? Are all monologues rants, or are all rants monologues, or are they the same thing? Like, what's the difference? A monologue. Let's think about like a monologue. No, I think a monologue is like an introspective type of out loud conversation. I think. Oh, you know what? I think I just figured out how to monologue. Like just now. No. We're no. You're back now. It's not a monologue anymore. I'm not gonna. No, come back. What do you mean? Five, 5 seconds. 50 seconds? You want me to monologue for 50 seconds right now while you're here? No, I don't want you to be for it. No, wait, no, come back. Ah, fuck. Okay, well, so yeah, I was talking about monologuing, and he kind of came back and just dipped. Were we? Oh, rant. The difference between rants and monologues. Yeah, monologue is like a introspective kind of thing, whereas like a rant is like you just talking about shit like that doesn't really matter. Like a monologue is like a introspective kind of thing where you're like, oh yeah, I think I'm actually kind of gay, or like, hey, I think I like dudes, or like, hey, I like penis. Those were all the same thing. If you didn't know, um, but yeah, I don't think I could be a stand-up comic. This is hard. Are you back? I kind of monologued for like a little bit. It was more like a rant because I just went through with this with like our audience, but I went through the difference between a monologue and a rant.
So what's the difference?
You had to be there. You had to be there.
So how do you monologue?
Well, I don't know how to monologue. I just figured out what the difference was, and I defined the difference, and then I proceeded to rant for about another 30 to 50 seconds.
Oh, okay.
So,
Well, I'll use you as a case study.
okay.
Did you already did everything? Like, are we in? Are we in it? In it? Are we in it? Are we lost in this? Are we thick
No, I
in the
didn't. I
sauce?
didn't.
Oh.
No, we're not. We're
Oh.
not. We haven't been sauced yet. I haven't tossed
Do
any
you,
sauce.
do you want
I haven't even opened the bottle or the jar.
you want to open the
With a
bottle and the
bag.
jar, and then we can.
I think if we watch this, I think if we're a sauce, I think we're like a sauce that's in a bag.
No, I think we're worse. Because sauce in a bag sometimes it makes sense. Like I think we're I think we're I think we're a fresh bag of Sprite with a straw in it.
A fresh bag of Sprite.
Yeah, with a fucking straw in it. For
Yeah, no,
drinking.
you're right. Because like
What's
Sprite in a bag with a straw is like not that bag. So you just stick the straw in the bag. That's fine, right?
well, yeah, because we still do everything we can with what we have to make it as drinkable as possible. It's just unfortunately we're in a fucking plastic bag.
What's like a worse place to put a sauce?
Worst place to put a sauce
A plate.
on the floor.
That that is true. That is true. I will give you that.
What
But
do you
like
mean,
a
like
portable.
serve? Like it's supposed to be
Yeah.
meant to be served to you, but to put no sauce.
I think sauce
Sometimes
on a
sauce
plate.
is on a plate.
Yeah, I think on a
Depend on the sauce because like if you go to like a restaurant that has decorative plating, they put sauce on a plate all the time, and you're supposed to just scrape it with the food.
I fucking hate that.
You do?
Yeah, I hate that.
You think sauce? What's the best compartment for sauce?
A bowl.
Like a small
cup.
sauce bowl,
Oh, like a sauce bowl? Yeah.
like a sauce dish,
Or
maybe.
like like those shots that like Asian people use, like those shot glasses.
Yes,
Put a sauce in there, perfect.
I think that's too small.
I mean, if you would make it a little bit bigger, perfect. But I think like
That's just
that
a regular
shape
bowl.
of a, I mean, it pretty much is
Well,
just
okay.
a bowl, but yeah.
If you just take the shape of the shot glass and you enlarge it.
Yeah,
That's just a mug, isn't it? You're just dipping sauce in a mug.
It's not that deep though. It's not that deep of like that.
The shot glass? That's like
No,
this big?
like the one that you have, like the red one that you have.
Yeah,
It's
enlarge
not really-
it. That shit's a mug, man.
It's not that. I mean, it's not that
it's
deep.
enlarged. It's pretty deep.
It's like it's
this.
kind of wide. It also has like a lip that kind of comes out a little bit.
I give you the lip.
Yeah,
I give you the lip. I think
I think a plate is just the worst plate to put a sauce. Like if I put ranch on a plate and I have fries, like that's like the worst place for me to put sauce.
watch
of course
this
I'll
right.
do it,
Watch
but-
this right.
Ranch.
A new Divi Ranch invention.
Okay. Right.
A sauce chute. We have a
What?
chute of sauce, right?
Uh-huh.
And then you drop an item inside. It gets all lubricated in the water slide of sauce, and then it just comes out the bottom perfectly sauce on all sides.
I don't want it to be perfect sauce on all sides.
Huh? You don't want.
I don't want like a ranch
What's your
that's
ideal
covered in ranch.
sausage? Sausage. What's your ideal sauce covering rate?
Think about this.
50%?
Like a third, like a 30%.
30%?
Like a 30% of like the end bit, right? Not like a 30% coverage, right? Or like an overall like all coverage on all sides. It's like 30% of the thing. Like you take the length of the thing. Like I want the other 60% of my fry to be available to my fingers so that I can
we
stay dry.
finger food.
Finger food, yeah.
Okay, so you might
If we're
flag
talking about,
me
like-
because this is Chinese, but like the first thing I thought of is taking the thing in a chopstick and just dip it in the sauce.
Right. If I'm eating
Honestly,
a thing with chopsticks, and
Chopstick
everything
is
goes.
like the S tier utensil for dipping in sauces
I could agree.
because you just it's just so easy. You just pinch it. Like the point of contact is so small. It's not like a fork where you're fucking horizontal to the bitch, like where you're just like perpendicular to the piece of
Yeah.
food. Like chopstick, you can just kind of grab the tip
I mean,
and just have it take a little dip, and then
You
it
just
comes
drop
back
the
up,
whole thing in there, use a chopstick, swirl it in there, and then grab it and take it out.
Exactly.
That's what I
you
would
can
do.
you can do that with the fork too, technically.
Technically, yeah, but it's not as clean as like with the chopstick because you could
That's
like
true.
fold it and then grab it. You know,
Oh yes, the folding.
the fold and grab is
That's pretty
S tier,
good.
is an S tier move.
But then that's more than 1/3 of the sauce
Right,
coverage.
but I
bro.
didn't think you were talking about chopsticks. I'm talking about finger food, right? A
Finger
finger food,
food, yeah.
I want 60% of that thing to be for my fingers, so then I have fat fingers,
What
so
if
I can grab it, and then 30% of it is in sauce, so then I eat it.
what if you have a more sophisticated way to have fries? Because when you get fries, they come in a shitty little like cardboard cotton that get like folded up anyways, right? What if instead of that you have a solid container for the fry, and then the bottom 1/3 of it is just already filled with sauce, so each individual fry comes pre-dipped 1/3 of the way perfectly with sauce.
Let's combine everything that we talked about and make it so sophisticated that we will never be able to build this thing, right? Have you ever seen like those little boxes of like cigarettes where like you open it and like
Oh,
only
yeah, yeah.
one cigarette comes out?
You
Yeah.
open it
Yeah.
and there's just
We make one of those things, but it
With little
covers the
fries.
entire thing with sauce because if I just have a box and I open it and like one fry like shoots itself up a little bit, so that it presents itself a little bit more to me than the other ones, but I could just grab it with my mouth like that. You could have a full coverage of a fry and I won't mind.
I remember
It's the
talking about
hands
this with my family, because my family is the type of psychopath that would cut a corner in a ketchup pocket and just paint the sauce on
Ugh.
to the fry like a fucking hot dog.
Every fucking
But
individual
It's-
fry. I hate that.
It's so fucking dumb the way they do it. It's incredibly inefficient, right?
Yeah.
But according to them, the reason why they do it is because it wastes the least amount of sauce. Because if you put everything on like a surface, then the sauce gets stuck to the surface. But if you paint individual fries, then all the sauce in the packets get used. Which, fair,
I
but
guess.
also stupid. Like incredibly stupid how that is done.
Yeah.
So inefficient. But my dad was talking about like a fry dispenser that has the sauce packet or like a sauce like dispensing thing on the top. So as a fry get dispensed, it just get coated as it comes out.
I mean, that would be pretty good. That would be pretty good as well.
It's so dumb.
No, putting sauce on every individual thing is like not like doing it one by one is so inefficient and kind of takes away from the whole experience. Like doing it on like
Honestly,
tacos, that's fine.
I think that's what they like. I think like the part of the painting is a part of their enjoyment, which is I don't understand it. I would never will.
That's a sad existence.
I know.
Like that's like the part of like your eating experience that you like is painting your
I know.
your fry in a ketchup.
I think I agree with fry coverage wise, 1/3 is pretty good.
I think 1/3 for like a finger food.
Okay, but like for finger food though, nuggets I prefer 50%.
Nuggets also like, I mean, for like me using my fingers on a thing, I need at least like 30 to 50% of it at least for my fingers.
Oh, you do have
right?
some fat fingers.
Yep. And then the rest of it is sauce, you know? So I can fully agree with like the nuggets being a 50%, you know, like you want like as much fucking dunkage.
I don't know why the idea of like a finger food dispenser seems so appealing to me. While you're talking about that, like, because we were already on track with the fucking fry dispenser that like also squirt condiment on top of it at the same time. I was thinking of like you know how nuggets are just flat and they're kind of round?
Yeah.
What if we made like a narrow like shoot that kind of has a curve and a sauce in the middle, and then it just rolls itself in the sauce, and then it just goes into your mouth.
Fuck. You just sit there and just like,
and then you push a button and it just goes, and it rolls down, and it's already dipped in sauce. You know.
I think the moment that we make those and like they become normal, if they ever do, like that's the moment we're fucked. You know, that's the moment we become like Wall-E, and everything just goes downhill from there. You know.
Yeah, you know, I get you.
So, but I can't wait for that day to come. You think there's like a skinny person that exists in Wall-E?
I imagine there's probably some sort of, you know, really weird thing going on with like a sub layer of the ship where they use slave labor to sustain the ship.
But they have robots.
What powers them? Maybe they have like a Matrix bullshit where there's a bunch of dudes in capsule as batteries, right? You know?
Yeah. They're like sucking the cum out of these like little skinny dudes and like using that as like the fuel for the. You think you can make like a fuel out of cum?
Yeah.
You know, like those flashlights where like it has like a little fucking lever thing that like you squeeze it really fast and it provides power to like the flashlight, and you can like create electricity in it, and that's how it lights up, right? What if we were to have like a bunch of little nanobots, right, that like attach themselves to like the little sperm cells, and since they're all like, you know, wiggling around and like doing all their thing, like they're doing their stuff, right? Like what if like all the little spermy dudes like create electricity like that, right? You just like stick a little friction pad on them at like the size of a cell, right? And then they're all like fucking swimming around doing their thing, and they all create friction, and that's how they create energy. That'd be crazy.
Harnessing the speed of cum as a source of power. I see.
Harnessing the speed of cum. Yeah.
Very good.
So I don't remember what we were talking about that made me think of that, but
how we were using sucking the cum out of people and using that as power.
Yeah. So I was thinking about doing that. Yeah, I was thinking about how that would work, and then I was just saying that it would probably like only create like 5 minutes of electricity, and then that would be it.
If you can take, you know how like in the same way as those flashlight that you squeeze to get like, you know, power out of it.
Yeah.
Like there's also the type that you shake. Right. So what if?
Yeah.
Right. If we can somehow harness the power of all of the dudes on the planet for fucking wanking it, and we use that up down motion as a source of power.
That'd be cool, honestly. Like why? Like okay, so let's go into that, right? What is like not the whole jacking off thing. I was just thinking about how we can use like friction is used to make electricity, and we could do that, right?
You know, there's already like places are doing something like that.
Jacking off a bunch of dudes with the friction and creating
Using the speed of cum to power the city. No.
Yeah.
I need to fact check this. I don't know.
Is that how fucking water mills work?
Using the speed of the liquid to yes.
Like push the fucking thing?
Yep.
Is that what they do? Create electricity?
Well,
or what else do they do?
There's a lot of electricity that we are using right now in Southern California that use that exact concept. It's called a Hoover Dam.
Is that what that thing does?
Yep.
Huh.
So the
I'm
way that
very
it works,
uneducated.
so the way that it works, right, is electricity and magnetism are kind of going hand in hand because you know how electromagnet is a thing, meaning that if you run a current through two otherwise unmagnetized thing, like a copper coil, right, it will create its own magnetic field, and that's how people like demolish cars in the scrapyard. You've seen those before, right? Like giant fucking like magnet that you can use to turn on and off and pick up giant like, you know, scrap or husk of a car and drop it somewhere. So imagine that, right? If you run electricity through a copper coil, it creates magnetic like energy. What happens when you take something that's already magnetic and then you just spin that thing? So in reverse, it creates power.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So energy generation for a lot of what we have here in Southern California come from the Hoover Dam and also from like Nevada and all that shit.
Mm-hmm.
But it comes from the water spinning essentially like a bunch of copper coils, and because of that spinning and the magnetic field kind of like reacting to it, it generates power. That's how simple power generation comes. And also, like, if you ever done this, right, a fan works the same way. A fan runs on a motor.
Yeah.
And if you power the motor, then the it basically pushes the motor in. It uses magnetism or a magnetic field to kind of push it halfway through. And then once it made half a circle, the circuit switches. So it keeps spinning. So it just switches really quick in between. Because you know how magnets kind of repel each other and attract each other? So if you use attraction and repelling force and you switch them really fast, it spins in the middle. So that's how fans work. But also, if you take a fan and you like unplug the outlet and you put like the outlet where it's supposed to go onto like a electricity current measuring instrument and you spin the fan backward, it generates electricity. Not a whole lot of it, but it does. That's the exact same principle as how power is generated.
So how do we use all this information and all this fantastic knowledge to create our own nuclear bomb?
So you get a bunch of people jacking off, right? And we use the force of their jacking off,
and
right?
You jack them off in reverse.
Yeah. And then we jack them off in reverse, and the cum goes back in their balls.
And they fucking implode. Oh man, that's a fucking hot time. Did you see that thing? So let me actually look this up before I start talking about it.
While you're looking up that, I don't exactly know how this works or how they're doing it, but some parts of Japan, they're using like a special flooring in their train station to generate electricity through the people's footstep. Like that kinetic power generates a small amount of electricity to power the lights in that station.
That's crazy.
I know, right?
Imagine if they were to do that when, like, in big cities like New York.
Yeah.
Like, that would be fucking wild.
Yeah, it will only work in big cities, too, because, like, you have to have enough foot traffic to generate enough power to light it up.
I mean, those were the places that would need it the most, though, too.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Well, so technically, right, it's a power-saving thing, but the lights for it is really not that energy-consuming. And that's only reason why it's possible to do something like that because like currently LEDs are actually just such like a revolutionizing technology in terms of lighting and power because in the past
they use such little power probably.
Oh yeah, so in the past to generate the amount of light you have to do it through like heat basically. So what the past like light sources are most of the time it's running electricity through like a small wire and that wire because of it being so thin is resistant to the current going through it and it heats up. And when it heats up it eventually becomes so bright from the heat that it provides light, right? But that in itself means that the light bulb is always like hot. If you ever felt like a old light bulb, they're warm because you know
they have to heat up.
They legit have to burn to create that sort of light. But LED, it's I don't exactly know how LED work, but it kind of like is so efficient that LEDs are not, they're super bright, but they're not doing it through heat like at all. Like the amount of light you can give off from an LED and the amount of heat that it generates, it's so disproportionate to what it was before with other light bulbs. Like you legit have LED lights that use like 1/10 the power of the light bulbs that they were used in the past before, and you can generate like so much brighter luminosity than just the past light bulbs. Like it's so incredibly efficient that you can do something like using footstep to generate enough power to power like the lights for the whole station, just because LED themselves use so little power in comparison to old lights.
Do you think that would be the same? Like you could use that same concept of like the kinetic force with like cars?
Yeah, probably. Probably.
That'd be kind of cool.
That would be kind of cool. There's also like people that are thinking about how to use like wireless power transfer. You know how you can wirelessly charge your phone? You can just slap it onto like a
magnet
or something, and it would just start charging, right? They were thinking, what if you can do that with electric cars? So that cars would never have to be refueled or repowered again if the electric grid just runs under the road. So that while it's moving, it's
charging,
constantly charging.
Yeah.
And that will also, like, if that works, right, it will also reduce the amount of like battery space that's needed in an electric car
because it
would just always be charging. You just need that little bit of power to go like in and out of places that's not the road. You know, that's also an idea that people are floating around, so that eventually like you won't even have to pay for like gas or charging of your electric car. It would just run automatically by itself whenever it's on the road. Crazy shit.
Really cool ideas. Those will never unfortunately happen, probably because of the gas industry.
Yeah.
Like, sorry to shoot that down.
No,
like those are super cool ideas, and like I would love to figure out how to like support those things. It's just that like
it's possible in places where democracy is not a thing.
Yeah, that is
like,
true.
There's actually an incredible amount of electric powered vehicle in like well, the only example I can give is China. Because that's the only other place I know besides this country.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's like if someone that's just in charge of everything just go, nope, we're going electric.
Yeah.
Then yeah, it worked. It's possible. If El Salvador is to do it, yeah, they could do it. El
Salvador, like I cannot emphasize whenever I talk about El Salvador enough that it is such a small country that revolutionary changes like that are so easy to make because it's so small. You could implement it like in like just like that, you know?
Yeah, it's almost like, you know, like a village where like people can just all know each other and they all say some shit and then everyone just agree and then they do a thing.
Yeah. So it's just so easy to make those kinds of huge and large changes in that country. But yeah, no, that's a cool time. It's also like there's a lot of people, at least in the United States, who are very like I can't think of any other way to think about it, unfortunately, because I'm just like that. Like I can't think of another way to say it outside of just selfish.
Yeah.
That they're like, oh well, yeah, that's expensive, and who's gonna be paying for it? Like the taxpayers. Like I don't want to pay for that. It's like, well, one, like somebody has to pay for it if
Yeah.
we want to make that kind of change.
Yeah.
Two, why wouldn't you want to like help
Yeah.
fund that? You know,
Yeah.
like you're already paying in taxes. Why not? You know, like
mean,
devote some of your
Yeah.
that tax dollars
I
to that.
always
you know?
like think about this, but like the American government or the way that we govern, it's based off of stability. It always has.
Yeah.
Like ever since the beginning when we made our constitution, it's always about, hey, we want these like Bill of Rights so that's nothing that should not be changed ever.
Yeah.
Like the constitution to us is like a sacred document that leads like our government and how they function.
Yeah,
right?
and it's really hard to make any kind of changes.
It's extremely hard to make any kind of change, and it's designed to be that way because
Yeah.
in the past, when those changes happen, it's because of like
just things change. Yeah.
no, because of like anarchy, because of fucking like some dude that's just in power and just absolutely like wreck everyone else because they get to change the rule. Same thing that's happening. I might have to cut this out in Russia right now with Putin just going no more terms. We can just rule forever if we
Yeah.
decide to be there. Like that
Well,
type of
yeah.
changes will not fly in the U.S. because of the way that our system it's
Right.
because it's actively preventing that. Same thing with separation of power.
Right.
Same thing of like, oh, no one entity in the country should hold all of the power, so they can't make those changes to like basically empower themselves and basically take over more, like checks and balances. Like everyone is accountable for everyone else. But
Yeah.
it's a great system for what it needed to be at the time.
Mhm.
But now it's so hard to make changes now that we can't keep up.
Mhm.
And like the established like ways of things are so set in stone that you can't make like easy changes. And in the past, that's always been like, yes, our government also puts a lot of power on the people and who they vote for, right? That's
Yeah.
100% true. But that it's also running on the presumption that the majority of the people that are voting are sensible,
Yeah.
somewhat educated, and like patriotic.
Yeah.
But those sentiments kind of are so washed out in our current nation, and everyone is so divided that system doesn't function the way that it's intended to anymore. Like
Yeah.
no one is trying to band together to solve a problem because there is no common problem for the people. And even if there is, like everyone else has made it a point to divide everyone's opinion to such a degree that we can't agree on like the simplest solution
Mhm.
for a problem that everyone has anymore. Like even the most sensible solution to a problem can get completely ruled out if someone just goes, we can't let the Democrats win. As simple as that.
Mhm.
And then the entire idea that is supposed to design to solve a problem for the people gets ruined.
We run off of spite now. Like it's not
Pretty
about
much.
it's not about like problem solving. It's about spite
It
and not
really
letting
is.
the other side win, and not letting the other side have
It really is.
their moment, or like letting the other side be like, hey, like they like advocated for this problem because it's not like it's because we all have
Yeah.
common problems, right? Like there are so many common problems
Yeah.
that we have. It's just that nobody wants the other side, regardless of whatever side you take.
Mhm.
Like nobody ever wants that other side
Mhm.
to take the credit for the good thing that they did.
Yeah.
Like there are so many things that like I'm sure like I can't like speak for like Russia and China, but I'm assuming that there are things that they do that are like that they do really well, right? Like not every system is perfect, but not every
Yeah.
system is like the worst system you can have, right?
Yeah.
There are some good things that you can take from everything,
Yeah.
right? But just because it's like, oh, but that's China. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, it is China. Like, so what? Like, oh, but that's China. It's like we've villainized the other side, quote unquote. We've villainized
We become
the
so
polarized and partisan that
pinpoint focus on like what's good and what's bad that we fail to see whether we can take a part of the solution and implement it into our life so that we can, have things that works too. Like we don't have to copy everything from other nations when, stuff for them works out, but we could like
see the idea and be like, okay, cool,
analyze
that's interesting.
See how that could be implemented into our own system.
Yeah.
Not fight each other to tooth and nail about it, and agree that, hey, this will help, and then like try to implement it. It's just really sad that at this point in time we have become so focused on, oh, my idea is right, no, my idea is better, that nothing gets done because we're constantly fighting about which is the best course of action, that we never takes the action in time for anything to happen,
Yeah. So it's like, I don't think that like the system is wrong. It's just that like we've become like our attitude towards it has become so wrong, like we could easily provide like do I want to do that? No. Like there have been changes and there have been things that have happened that are great for the United States that like nobody really pays attention to because they're so focused on the problem and they're so focused on like what's next, that we like nobody ever like takes credit for it. And when they do, it's always for the wrong reason,
And honestly, like not everyone it's like responsibility free. Like we are part of the problem because we don't actively participate in the political sphere. Like despite how discouraging it might be, try to participate in it because of all the dumb shit that happens. Like it's ultimately it's people like us who think about it and bitch about it that has a responsibility to go whoa and change things,
Yeah. Which I've heard that message from like people and I'm like, okay, well now that I'm starting to pay attention to politics, okay, like I'll do my small part and ask you guys like, hey, let's go vote. And which is why I always preface it by saying like, regardless of if you guys like disagree with me, I really don't care, right? But at least the country, if we go out and vote, will look like the way that we want it to, not what a bunch of old people who die in 20 years, like what they want it to look like, Because at the end of the day, it's not whether like we disagree or anything like that. It's whether or not we actually, implement the power and the privileges that we have to change the country in the way that we want it to. We make it look like the way that we want it to look like. Because I think what really has ended up happening, like that contributes to the attitude that we have towards the government, is that younger people, like they just get so like fed up and tired of listening to the government that like we've slowly become more and more just kind of involved in our own lives and thinking about what's happening really around us and not really thinking about why that's happening and the government that may or may not be affecting it, because they hear like their older generations like complain about it and they're like, oh, fucking, they become so like
honestly also preaching. Because like I think it has become so much, not to say like, oh, we have it so hard, but it has become so much harder for us to balance everything and like, live a normal fucking life. Because like shit's expensive as fuck. Right. And then it's hard as fuck to find like a stable career. Right. It's also just everything has become so much more like attention needing, right? Like everything else in our life has become so complicated that we have to devote so much of our time and energy into it that we don't have the luxury of an already established older generation that has their life set every day and don't have to ever worry about like their career. Well, not ever, but they most of the time, right? They're they're exactly where they're meant to be. You know,
Mhm.
they're going to work at the same company for like the past like couple of years. Like they have a stable job. They don't have to worry about housing because they probably it's long time renting
Yeah.
somewhere or already own their own property.
Mhm.
Right? They don't have to worry about relationship a lot of the times because they're already married and they're already going steady.
Yeah.
So everything else in their life, it's at a stage where they're set and there's no need to worry about it because everything has been decided already, and they can use all of their spare time to, you know, invest in companies, worry about politics and where the world is
Yeah.
going, and
Pay
go
attention to that kind of
pay
stuff.
attention to that type of stuff instead
'Cause-
of worrying about, oh hey, that job looks better than the job I have right now.
Mhm.
I want to switch over there. That has better benefit. Where am I going to live if I want to switch that job? If I want to get closer to that? Oh, but if I go that way, how often do I visit my parents? Like all of that stuff that's
Mhm.
unset for us, right? That we still need to decide and figure out. It's a very big obstacle in us being active and paying attention
Mhm.
and in politics and like caring about it,
Yeah.
Like, sure, you can do it. But like you said, it takes so much time
Yeah.
and energy out of it, and people get so fed up, especially because the political sphere is so
Yeah.
retarded sometimes.
There's a couple of things that I want to mention, like relating to that as well. It's like, so like first thing, right? Well, the first thing I thought of was like, yes, the experience of being in like a young person, right? Like a
Mhm.
younger person, at least like in your 20s and in your 30s, right? Like, yes, the overall general experience is that, yes, you are broke. Yeah, you're going to school. Yeah, you're going to struggle, but, and then they kind of take that as like, yeah, well, I mean, like, get over it. Like, you have to do what you got to do. It's like, yes, I have to do what I have to do, but you have to understand that, like, for like you and me, right? We will most likely never be able to own property because of the things that we are choosing to do, right? Like if you take Jeff, for example, he worked in a call center and was able to buy a house in his 20s, like almost into his 30s, and he worked at a desk job, like that was the kind of economy that they were working with, where it's like us, like I could never imagine buying a house right now, like even when I was working, 2 jobs, wasn't going to school and just paying rent and stuff, that was never going to happen. Not for at least another like 20, 30 years, would I ever be anywhere near ready to buy a house, right? So there's just that, right? It's like, it's so much, it's like, it's way more exacerbated than it was back then, right? So I always hate when people are like, oh, well, it's like I also went through that too. It's like, yes, you went through that, but fruit, like gas, like cost, like was 50 cents back then, where I had to pay $40 to get like half of my tank full, and that's 2 hours of work for me, so like there's that. And I always hate when like older people are like, oh, well, you're just going to be broke. You just have to like, do what you can with what you got, which, yes.
While that is true.
While it is very much true, it's not the same as what you were going through because, yes, while you also were broke, you didn't know what you were doing and you were still also struggling. Like, we are also struggling, but you had the opportunities to work, as much as you needed to get the things that you have now because they costed, 60 cents in a raspberry to get a house. You know what I mean? So, but of that, and also then to go into the whole like young people and like not wanting to like vote and everything, or like them having to like deal with all the other things that are going on. The internet is just a thing. Like they didn't have to worry about the internet and like receiving so much information that it's paralyzing. You don't know what to do. You don't know what's real, what's not. Like journalism back then used to be like, yeah, I'm going to report on the things that are true. You know what I mean? Whereas now it's so easy to spread misinformation that like
or at the very
never
least,
know.
even if they're not true,
it's easy to disprove it.
It's easy to not even go into disproving it. Even if the information is not true, whether information is true or not, I think ultimately doesn't really matter if the entire public believes in that information.
Yeah.
Because then everyone is on the same page and there's no hesitation.
Yeah.
Like even if that thing is, completely wrong, if everyone looked at it and believed it to be true, then it's true as far as everyone else's lives go.
Yeah.
And that makes it a lot more simple to go about every day and have small talks and, vote and like do everything because there's like one or two sources of information and they report mostly the same thing.
Yeah,
and whether that's true or not, you don't have to think about it because everyone else thinks it's true and that's all that matters,
Yeah. Versus now where you have like, 16, 20 different sources of information and almost all of them have almost completely different versions of the same piece of news.
Yeah. And because of the availability of information, it becomes so much easier for misinformation and for any way to divide people. Like, it's so easy to be like, oh, yeah, but look at this. Oh, yeah, but look at that. And then now everyone's like split all over the place and there's no general consensus on like a thing,
Hold on. Just so you can cut that out.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, no, it's tough being a person of like our generation, or at least like a generation that like is living in the age of the internet, where information is so easily accessible and we're so easily connected that information. I mean, it's information. It doesn't have to be true. It doesn't have to be false. It could be anything, and you could receive that information. Anybody can post anything on the internet.
Yeah,
and you might take that as law.
Yeah.
And, these are the people that get influenced and, vote and get elected. They could believe that, the Jewish people have an orbital laser that they use to start fires, you know what I mean? Just for shits and giggles and for their own gain. And then that person gets elected because, they think differently, Yeah. Like, it's wild.
And also it doesn't help, like going back to the whole younger generation, older generation stuff, right? I think it doesn't help that we are at a place where even like the age difference in a generation is so like at each other's throat for like no reason. Like it honestly could do better for the older generation instead of like, oh, back in my day I did this easy, you guys are just fucking snowflake. It honestly would not kill you if you just be like, yeah, I understand how it was as a young person. Like, I struggle too. I get it. Let's cut them some slack, And the reverse is true for us. While it's very easy to be like, oh, yeah, the boomers are just fucking up everything. They're just voting for shit that's, beneficial to them. But at the same time, our generation
has always been able to vote. No one stopped us from doing it. We could have always just gone.
Yes, but also we could be like, hey, we would like to participate in the political sphere. Like, we have things to say. And, it wouldn't help for us to kind of like look to the older generation, not only for guidance, but also just have a conversation, just talk about it, figure out what's going on. And then like, like while that's happening like all the time, like people talk about politics during like family dinner and then everyone, kind of get riled up for no reason. But it doesn't, it should be taken not as a heated debate, but like everyone should be a little bit more, just relax a little bit and just hear stuff from the other side and not be so set in your own like view that you like basically have to be like, I'm right. Like, just relax, like hear what their reasoning is and then decide which part of that is right, which part of that is wrong to me, and then try to reason and approach it in a place of understanding or trying to understand, because ultimately everyone's on the same team, everyone lives in the same fucking country, and everyone's influence in politics, like ideally, is for the betterment of the society as a whole. Like, regardless of what your thing is, if you think this is that like this should be this way, that should be that way.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, just remember that the other side's also trying to make the world a better place. You might have different ideas of what that's like, but like at least hear each other out, you know? And that's also like what it makes the whole political sphere a lot more welcoming to people that may or may not care about it. And it like gets more people to participate. It gets more people to try to solve the problem. And it should really be approached, politics as a whole, not as like an extremely polarizing thing, but as a collaborative effort. Because that's what it's meant to be in the beginning. It's just that somewhere down the road we have gotten so far up each other's asses that we completely forgot about the fact that it's a collaborative effort. We're on the same team, dickheads. We're both trying to make this country run smoother. Just fucking relax and think about things before you go like, no, it's not, it doesn't set, like, it doesn't line up with my guidelines. Fuck this, you know? Like, just relax, man. Fucking hear each other out.
Yeah, like we're the voice of the future, and they're the voice of what was, you know? So, I don't know. I don't think we have to cut any of that out. We didn't say, I don't think we have to cut any of that out. We didn't say anything like polarizing or anything.
I don't think so.
It kind of sucks too that like that's what we have to think about too, you know? We have to think about like, okay, like we have to cut that out because, you know, maybe a bunch of people don't agree with what we're saying, like, or what we think, you know? If we were started name dropping and like started being partisan, like people aren't going to agree on like what's going on.
Well, not to be, you know, like, oh, fuck you about it, but also we're doing this podcast for us. So at the end of the day, we say whatever the fuck we want and we cut whatever the fuck we want. And if people disagree with an idea that we all three of us, or in this case, all two of us, and Josh, hi Josh. Like, if all three of us agree with opinion and we think, hey, this is a message that we want to put under Chucklefux into the world, and people disagree with it, fuck them. This podcast is not for them, it's for us.
And honestly, if you're like against the idea of like unifying a country to
and working together to solve a problem, then fuck off.
Like if you're against the idea of like solving a problem and bettering the country for everybody, like in our own unique different ways, like fuck you,
and
you
be
know?
more understanding towards each other as people.
Like if you want to be like that polarizing and like, oh well, you know, they're fucking little gay boys that want to like bring peace and shit, and like, well, you're part of the problem, asshole. Like, you know, like you're not doing anything. You're not doing anything for like, I don't know. You're just not making it better. You're exacerbating the problem, making it worse, and making it more discouraging for anybody to even like want to care about politics. You know?
Yeah.
Like you're like, they're the kind of people that you see and you're like, man, like there's a billion of them like that, and I'm just a dude, you know? Like I don't want to, you know, get into politics if there's a bunch of dudes like that that want to.
It's so discouraging.
And
when that happens. Yeah. Well, anyways, welcome back, guys, to another episode of Chucklefux.
Yeah.
This is episode 30 of the podcast.
Nice. Josh is he's here.
He sure is.
He's very much here.
Yeah.
Totally. Like 100% here.
He's totally not trying to aim a plane into the Eiffel Tower at the moment.
Not at all. He's not trying to commit acts of terrorism that would forever change the economy of all of Europe for ages to come. He's also definitely not trying to undermine whatever's happening in any of the countries that are getting invaded.
Oh, yeah.
He's also definitely not looking for secrets in every single country and selling it to the highest bidder.
Yeah. He's definitely not going into a nuclear power plant with a screwdriver and planning to drop that shit inside.
You think like throwing a screwdriver into like a nuclear power plant would actually fuck it up? Like, what's the smallest thing that you could throw into a nuclear power plant that would actually fuck things up?
10 grams of uranium.
Like just throwing uranium into like a nuclear reactor and that's it?
No, I think there's enough fail-safe that even if you throw a screwdriver in there somewhere, it will be fine.
I think a grenade.
Oh yeah,
would
grenade
work.
would do it.
Yeah.
A fucking frag.
Yeah.
Like an American pineapple frag, that would do it.
Yeah. So, like, what's like go smaller than that? Like, what's smaller than a frag grenade?
Firecracker.
Firecracker?
You think one of those like you know those like little firework like throwing things that comes like it looks like a Hershey's Kiss and it's like this a paper sack of gunpowder you throw on the ground, it goes bah.
The little fucking
think that would do
garlic things? Yeah.
You think that could do it?
I don't know. I don't know if a firecracker would do anything either. Well, maybe. Well, it's just water, right? It's just like a fuck ton of water.
Nuclear
around
power
it?
plant?
Yeah.
Yeah, so nuclear power plant.
Magnesium. Because magnesium reacts with water, right?
So
is that it? Or what's
here's
the
the
one?
problem.
Okay.
Yeah, magnesium does react with water. You're correct, I think. But because of the way that nuclear power plant works is that they use a nuclear fusion energy to heat up water, meaning that the nuclear part is completely separate from the water part. It just heats it up. Think of like a metal ball that has heat in it, and it just heats the water around it. So as far as the nuclear part goes, it's pretty protected because it doesn't need to touch anything.
So then we just need to put what's that group of elements called? The ones that react with water? That and just put all like a solid like 10 pounds of those elements into that water and it'll work because it'll heat it up, it'll react and it'll fucking go off. And if the point of the water is to cool it down, right? If we like make that water do the opposite of what it's supposed to do, then we're chilling.
I mean, you're not wrong. You're right.
Do we use nuclear reactors at all in the United States to create water?
Yeah.
Create water. Create electricity? Still?
Yeah. In certain parts, for sure. But not nearly as much as we should. Because honestly, those nuclear power plants, they're relatively safe, if I'm being honest with you. Because like even the flawless plan of Eric to destroy a nuclear power plant by heating up the water, water is incredibly hard to heat up in the grand scheme of things. Because water has such a large amount of storage for heat. Like it has so much capacity to store heat. It takes an insane amount of energy for water to heat up even a couple of degrees, which is why it's always cooler near the beach. Because water is hard to heat up.
Is that because it doesn't have any conductive metals in it?
No. It's just a property of water. Okay, so heating up a liquid to turn it into gas, right? The liquid itself is based on the... Okay, we're going to have to go a level deeper, right? The state of matter as they are at room temperature is determined by how excited their molecules are to each other. For example, if you heat up a pot of water and you really turn those fuckers on, they would just start going all over the place. They would go fucking balls to the wall crazy, eventually to the point where they bounce around so fast that they cease becoming a dense liquid. And there's enough space between them that they're essentially a gas, right? And because that could be said for like any gases in our atmosphere. Like oxygen could be a liquid, nitrogen could be a liquid, water could be a gas. Like any of this stuff could become either liquid or gas depending on the pressure and the temperature that they're under. It's just that so happen in the normal room temperature, water is a liquid and oxygen, say, it's a gas. But the water molecules themselves are like kind of attracted to each other. H2O is two hydrogen molecules and one oxygen molecule. And because those two hydrogen molecules are facing one side, it attracts to the next oxygen molecule, right? And that's what makes it very difficult to heat up and become a gas, because that attraction requires energy to break apart. And that energy comes in a form of heat, meaning that think about putting two magnets apart. You need like physical force for that. And that physical force is heat. And because water is built like a magnet where they're attracted to each other all the time, it takes an incredible amount of like thermal energy for it to break that bond and become a gas, which is why it's so hard to heat up water.
So while you were thinking about that, I just take like a little water gun that has like, that's like a water gun specifically meant for liquid nitrogen. And I just squirt the little shell casing of like the reactor, and I throw a rock at it. And just fuck with the stability of the little casing for the uranium.
Yeah, that might do it. That might do it. But if you think about it, it might be just helping cool down the reactor anyway, so.
That's what I thought about when I was like, oh, what if I just throw some liquid nitrogen into the water? And I was like, well, what's the water supposed to be doing? Cooling down the thing? Yeah, okay, cool. That doesn't work.
What if I put ice in a bag next to my GPU? You think that would heat it up?
Well, unless it's so cold that it breaks the casing.
Yeah.
Well, what's the casing made out of? Lead, right?
I don't know.
Probably, right?
I
Lead,
don't know.
because I think
Maybe. I don't know.
Radiation can't go through lead. Right?
I don't know. Theoretically, it's more simple than that, right? If you throw enough rocks at it hard enough, it will break eventually.
Just caveman it.
So, I mean, that's what guns are, just throwing bits of things really fast. If you think about it. Same thing with frag grenade, just throwing chunks of a grenade really hard at something. We haven't moved past the caveman stage, guys. We're still just throwing things at other things really fast.
Okay. What if I made a grenade? That's a grenade, right? Of course. But inside the grenade, it has the elements that react with water. So, like, I throw the grenade in the water, so then the water, like, it goes into the water as much as possible, right? So then I'm not just dropping magnesium on the top of the pool and it doesn't do anything, right? Yeah. If I throw the grenade in the water, it goes as deep as it's going to go, depending on how hard I throw it. It blows up, right? Of course, like, it blowing up was also going to do something, maybe. Like, the explosion itself will, like, heat up the water a little bit, but then all the reactions from, like, the magnesium and other things that are in it are, like, also doing stuff.
Why don't we make just mustard gas, which reacts with water to form acid, and then the water will just become acid, and then we just eat away the case.
Yeah, there you go. Now we're cooking with gas. Get it?
Oh, and it's a surprising bonus. It would kill all the staff in the power plant, too.
It'll happen regardless. Yo, how do you make mustard gas? It's like bleach and
some ammonia and bleach or some shit. Relatively easy. If we just get enough of those two things, and we get like two giant water balloons, like, you know, one of those like wildfire extinguishing water balloons, and one of them's filled with bleach, the other one's filled with ammonia, and we just dump that all over a power plant. And just mix with each other and make mustard gas. We got it. Easy money.
Or have two little water guns. Both of those things and just shoot it.
Big super soaker. That's like circumnavigating the entire Earth like a satellite. And then we just remote control it and let gravity do the work. And just a stream of, you know, bleach and ammonia would just come pouring down like a fucking laser beam from Helldivers onto a nuclear power plant, and then everyone dies.
Oh, no. We'll ask the Jews for their orbital laser and just take them out.
You think we can rent that like a Super Bowl commercial? Like, we can buy like 2 minutes of it?
yo, Jews, can I like buy your orbital laser for like 10 minutes?
Yeah, on like, May 15th during the hours of like 12 a.m. and and like 2 a.m. right when it's crossing over the nuclear power plant, like in Nevada or some shit, and then we just let loose, just pull the trigger.
Hey, when is your orbital laser gonna like be facing the Western Hemisphere? Can I get like a day around there at like 12 a.m. to 1 a.m. Preferably for like, how long does it take your orbital laser to melt concrete? Yeah, for that long.
You charge how much for a minute? Jesus Christ!
Fuck. All right.
Damn, Hitler's right.
You cheap motherfuckers. This is why you guys have an orbital laser. Oh man, so that's fun. We just talked about the government and politics, and then we talked about how to blow up a nuclear reactor with as little effort as possible, and then we ended off with the conspiracy theory. This is what happens when you just get us.
That's what happened when Josh is not here to derail us, unfortunately.
Yeah, to derail us on like some random shit.
Yeah, because like honestly, sometimes that's what saves us from going to conspiracy theory and politics. Just some derailment, good old fashioned Josh style derailment. Speaking of derailing, how's that bullet train going in France, Josh? You got that yet?
Well, the bullet train stuff, like the whole like opposing magnets and stuff like that on the bottom, and like that's a really cool idea.
It really is.
That's really fucking cool.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good time. Trains are a good time. They're like frictionless traveling little missiles that you can just shoot at each other, and then hopefully stopped in time.
If
Josh was not there to derail it.
Big ramp and like just attached like a missile to like a bullet train, we could
I'm sorry, attach a what now?
If we were to like take a bullet train, right, and a ramp and like an ICBM, right?
Yeah.
Tie the ICBM to the bullet train. Get the train to like just fly off the ramp. That we could just like subvert like the whole like the rocket fuel part of the ICBM.
Why would you need a train if you could just put a fucking ICBM on a rail and just shoot that off instead?
All right, hold on. It doesn't sound like as American.
No, you're right. I'm sorry. I didn't consider the fielding for the ICBM. No, like, maybe it needed a comfy seat, some complimentary drinks, a restroom on the way. I'm sorry.
No. Like this is like being like a smart hillbilly, right? Like you taking like you're like just like jerry rigging like a mass like a weapon of mass destruction, but like sciencing it, but like also like super gluing the ICBM, or like duct taping the ICBM to the bullet train, so that it's got like some kind of like shakiness to it that somehow works.
You need like a chainsaw, like a metal cutting chainsaw, and just saw off the top part of the train, so only the bottom bit remains, right? So that's weight, right? Then you duct tape.
Oh yeah. There you go.
Missile to the bottom part of the train.
Oh,
right?
That's hot. Yeah. But then you still have like the seats and everything. So like like a redneck can just like hang on there and just be like, oh,
exactly.
Yeah, America, woo! Blows up North Korea with the bullet train. Oh man, how fast would you have to go in order to ramp into the atmosphere?
Well, how long? How far is the distance you need to ramp?
Well, I mean, just to get into the what?
What's the distance you're trying to ramp from here to North Korea?
Well, I mean, just to get because if you
into
wanted
orbit.
Well, because if you wanted to get to North Korea, right, you would have to have one hell of a fucking arc, right? So you would have to exit the atmosphere in order to do that, right? You would have to go into orbit, kind of. Right?
I guess so, yeah.
To get that kind of curve.
Yeah, I mean,
for like to get from here to Texas, we wouldn't have it wouldn't have to be that high. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, if anything, it might be honestly, like at a certain point past the threshold of having to get that thing so far into the atmosphere that it's not really like that attracted by gravity anymore. It plateaus. The difficulty plateaus at a certain point.
Yeah.
Because it's the same launching a missile like into space
is hard.
And just have it like orbit it's relatively the same effort if we wanted to go slightly into space and come back and hit North Korea, right? So with everything that we just mentioned, I reckon Mach 7.
Box. No. I was just thinking, like, if a bunch of hillbillies actually tried to do this shit, and then like they kind of forgot about like the atmosphere and how like gravity doesn't really affect it all that much. It just doesn't do anything anymore, and so it just starts orbiting us. And they're like, "Oh shit!" And then like it eventually just like comes back and it hits something. You know, it like comes back into orbit and just hits some random country, and some random country like just gets fucking nuked for no reason. Like 20 years later. Oh man,
Like Ukraine, they just finished fighting Russia.
yeah, they're like, yeah,
They're rebuilding.
Random fucking ICBM attached to a bullet train hit our Ukraine today. They're like, oh shit, Timmy, there it is. We just bombed the Ukrainians.
There was also a charred body attached to it. We're currently trying to identify. Oh, that's Bob.
Oh shit, dude. Call Mary.
Call Mary. We found Bob.
We found Bob. We're taking a trip to Ukraine. Shit. Somebody give me some Bud Light. No, they wouldn't drink Bud Light, right? No, what's one's the one that they don't like? Budweiser.
Budweiser. Bud Light.
Give me a fucking Modelo, or no, they're racist. They wouldn't want to.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever. Give me a fucking beer. I'm going out shooting. I'm sad. It didn't hit North Korea. It didn't hit them Chinese fucks. Oh man. Jeez.
Come on, Jill. We gotta hijack another bullet train. Round 2. Don't forget about the atmosphere.
Let's not forget about the atmosphere this time. Who's sitting on it this time? Joe?
Mary volunteered. She said she want to go after Bill.
America! Fuck yeah! Oh man. I totally would forget about orbit.
If we ever go, it'd just be orbiting the Earth. It's the International Space Station. Fucking blows that shit up. God damn it! Didn't aim right. Blow up a bunch of nerds.
Oh damn! Fuck! Oh, the space station is real. God damn it, Clinton.
Well, not anymore.
We made the conspiracy theory true. I guess we never did leave Earth. Just blows up the moon. They can't go to a place that never existed. Oh man.
Why you gotta do that? God damn it, you fucked up the tides. How the fuck we supposed to fish now? Huh?
The fish don't know how to swim. You gotta relearn how to fish, you dumb fuck. You dumb some bitch. Man, my boat don't work no more. I was gonna mention earlier that, did you see that thing that they think that the Hubble telescope, or what was it, the Hubble or whatever?
No, you got it.
Like that NASA discovered a planet that they think, or that they're theorizing, has city lights on it.
Has what?
Has city lights on it.
Oh, okay.
They like, you know how like when you go into orbit or whatever, when you
I haven't seen that. No.
Yeah, no, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I mean, I didn't really do that much research on it. I just wanted to find a article that said something about it, because if I find a article, then it's like somewhat true. But yeah, they're theorizing that they might be city lights. It's cold and lacks a host star, meaning nuclear source of energy. There's no nuclear source of energy.
Yeah.
It's just saying that like it's kind of they think that it might not be because they have a cold star. So they're saying that there's a presence of water on that exoplanet.
Yeah.
So that it's like life on there isn't not possible. It's just kind of it's really hard. It's just a theory, right? Because they see like lights and shit.
Well, assuming they're city lights, why do you think they haven't reached out to us? Because I assume that if we can see them, they could probably see us.
Well, thinking about
how far away is it?
I just closed the tab. I think it was like 47 light years away.
Okay. Well, in that case,
isn't that far technically.
If they have city lights, they're probably at least 47 light years. No, sorry, at least 47
47,000 years
No,
away.
at least 47 years ahead of us, because we can see what's 47 years ago for them.
Right. So, well, like, so they could just be in the same spot that we are, because 47 years ago, we also had a bunch of lights, you know?
Yeah.
They might be in the same exact place that we are. There's nothing really stating or saying that they are more advanced than us. It's
Right,
just city
but-
lights, you know?
Technically,
They would
the shit that we sent out would have already reached them. So if they are the same, around the same place that we are, we
Right.
would have received theirs.
Right, but how long ago did we send that out? Because also think about the fact that like the light has reached us, right? But nothing else is as fast as light. So
Yeah.
say if they were to have gotten like our shit right around this time, like actual this time, like
Mhm.
real space time.
Mm-hmm.
If they had sent something out, we won't get it for like 50 years.
Yeah.
You know, we might not get it for a really long time.
Yeah.
You know, like I mean, regardless of, yeah, like say if we sent out a probe, right,
Mm-hmm.
or like we sent out radio signals, right? One, radio signals deteriorate in space after a long time because
That's
they're just out there for so
Yeah.
long and such a far distance that it just degrades and deteriorates after a while. So when they get it, it might just sound like nonsense,
Mhm.
right? Which is kind of like at least what we think is the same thing that we received, because there have been some radio signals that we've received that don't make sense to us.
Yeah.
Because it might have degraded so far, you know,
Mhm.
and it might have been from anybody, from
Mhm.
anywhere, you know.
Watch this shit, right?
Okay.
Technically, the fastest way for us to communicate with each
Is
other
light.
is light.
Uh-huh.
So instead of sending radio waves, what we got to do when we confirm that that's actually a civilization
Uh-huh.
is you just line up a bunch of fucking city lights and just turn off a part of it at the same time so it spells some shit. It's like, hey!
Hey!
And then they see it in their little telescope, little green little big eye alien dude. You just look through their little weird telescope and they'd be like, oh my god!
They're like, oh my god, they said something. What the
what
fuck
the
does
fuck
that mean? They said a bunch of
flipping us off?
lines.
What the fuck?
Yeah, I mean, like if that is true, and we found a planet that has city lights on it, like that's awesome. That's really cool.
That is awesome.
Like, does it really mean anything? Not really, because we can't do anything with that information. And even if we could do something with that information, unfortunately, we won't. Like, at least
Well,
you and me.
If we could establish communication with them in some way, no
Yeah.
matter how slow it is, we can just play fucking intergalactic telephone.
Yeah.
We can just be like, oh, hey, check this shit out. We learned how to make a nuke. And then they'll be like, oh, God.
They're like, oh shit.
And then they send something back, and we're just like, what the fuck is that?
It blows up. You want to
Oh
see?
my god, it's a blueprint that goes to the center of the fucking earth. It's a drill that can blow up the planet. Holy shit, you know?
Yeah. No, I don't. Yeah, no, it's cool. It's anything that we do, it will take so long that
Yeah.
like at least with the ways that we have to communicate, like we
Mhm.
just don't.
Well, I mean, like, honestly, I feel like the first thing, like, say, for example, right, if some divine power is like, hey, aliens are real. Here's an envelope. Like, write something. I would deliver to them and, you know, write your message. I would honestly just send a picture of us.
Like what would it look like?
Yeah, just like an image of us
I mean-
living everyday life and then just
Yeah.
send that shit to them. Because
Yeah.
just from that is way more information than we could ever communicate with a language that we don't know.
Yeah.
They would just see us and be like, oh, the fuck is this? Oh
Wait.
my god, they got like, you know,
Air.
they got like air. They got like fucking mouths and shit. They're eating. What is that? Is that a tortilla chip? You know?
Is that a Mexican?
Oh my god.
They got Mexicans over there
You
too.
know what I
They
was saying?
say like a fucking
You know
nuke.
what I was saying? If like I have a direct text line to like aliens, I would just send a picture that I took of you and Bert at Knott's next to the jelly bean on a bench.
They're like, oh my god, they got
Oh my
little people
God.
and big people. They got a big jelly bean looking dude. They got little other dudes.
I assume the one in front is a male and the other one's a female.
Well, that one got big titties. Yeah, no, it's cool. I don't know.
I would fucking love to receive an image of the alien equivalent of some dude in the kitchen shirtless eating tortilla chips. I would fucking love that.
Yeah, I don't know.
There would be so much I can go into if I receive a picture like that. Like everything they have would be completely different from ours.
Yeah.
You know, like what if they don't have counter spaces? What if everything they have is just hanging in the air? Like what if everything is on hooks for them? Maybe that's the easiest. Maybe they don't have hands, you know?
I was going to say, like, what if the way that because, like, okay, so let's think about this, right? So they're on an exoplanet, right? Meaning that it's really fucking cold there, right? Yeah. Meaning that if life did start there, that they don't need heat, right? Or at least...
Maybe they're reptilian.
Yeah, maybe they're cold-blooded, reptilian, so they might see light differently.
Maybe they can survive the cold. Like, they need warmth to be able to move, but if they get left out, they can just hibernate for like a couple of years until someone pick them up, you know? Maybe. Who knows?
Because they also so if that's the case, right, and if they hibernate and everything, they're just going to be farther behind than we are, right? Well, it could be either way, right? So they might be really fucking smart. So they might be in the same, like, they could be like sometime around us, like as advanced around us, right? They could be more advanced than us, or they could be behind because since they have to hibernate because it might get really cold for some seasons or whatever.
We're also just assuming
that reptilian means the same exact thing that like us reptilian mean.
Right.
You know? So like a cold-blooded thing might be...
Maybe they don't even use the same carbon life form system that we use.
Yeah, maybe
because
they use
our stuff is carbon-based and everything we know is because of that.
Yeah.
Like maybe they don't even have DNA. Maybe their shit is different.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't require heat. Who knows?
Because, I mean, we're just going based off of our one planet, and we have no other planet to base any kind of research on any other kind of life, you know? And so they might be completely different. Yeah. So we could send them a picture, and
they would just
based
be
on the kind of, like...
the fuck is that?
Yeah, like maybe like their technology isn't based off of... I wasn't going to say based off of light, but I think light is a pretty universal, like, fact, right?
Yeah. I think light is a pretty universal fact so that they can like probably see relatively the same way that we do, unless they have stuff like they only see
like UV light.
Like UV light, or they can only see invisible light spectrum from like what we can see.
Yeah.
Then maybe us sending them a picture to them just looks like a fucking piece of paper.
I was
like,
gonna
what
say,
the fuck is that?
I was gonna say maybe a piece of paper would like, or like a picture like doesn't mean anything. It would just be something blank or.
But then again, if we can decipher what like invisible like spectrum of light looks like refracted from the surfaces, they could probably do that. They just can't do it with naked eye. They could probably decipher it in some way. So that maybe for them, they're like, oh my god, they could only see in this spectrum of light.
But
so
fucking
that's
weirdos.
why if we put it underneath this filter, we can see the shit that they sent us. The fuck is that? Is that a titty?
Is that some fat bitch? Yeah, that's a huge ass titty. Yeah, no, it's cool. It's a good time.
Because like if you just send them a blank sheet of like paper, right, with an image on it, but to them it's just blank, right?
Yeah.
They must know how to figure something, or like they must be running tests with that thing, try to figure out what the fuck it is. Because like,
well, also if we can see city lights, right, on their stuff, right, and it just doesn't look different, it's just city lights, right? Then they kind of have to have the same kind of vision that we have, right?
Yeah. Because
otherwise,
if we can see the light,
because it would be like a bunch of UV light if they had UV vision, right? And so we wouldn't be able to say like, oh yeah, it's city lights. Well, I mean, we could say that it's like city lights, but like, you know,
I honestly think like if we can transmit this information in some sort of data, I would just send them like basically like a video, right? But like depending on what's the capacity for signal sending, because video is just a bunch of fucking pictures, like stamped on top of it, like stapled pack of pictures. That's basically what a video is. I would just basically send them that, like send them a video of us doing human things, maybe like dancing or some shit, or like making food, eating, talking with each other, playing sports or some dumb shit.
How many different ways can we send the same thing in like a format? Like, can we put? Well, if we put filters on them, it's still the same light, just using different colors, right? And if they can't see colors, right, then it doesn't really matter. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of hard to think about like communicating with them when they might not have the same kind of like vision system as we do.
Yeah, I mean, that's honestly what I feel like it's the most exciting thing about being able to open a line of communication with like a planet, right? In my mind, ideally, coming in contact with alien, it's some species that's around the same time of development as we are. Like they can't travel to us because they're fucking 47 light years away.
They're like within the same 100 years as us, either in the future or in the past, kind of thing. They have to be around that time.
So that like we can build a mutual communication system of like, oh, we know we can't reach each other quite yet, but here's us. This is our version of Fat Man in the kitchen naked eating tortilla chip.
Fat Man in the kitchen naked.
And then like we can just be like, oh, this is us. Oh, this is, and then eventually once we got to know what we are, right, oh, this is your way of life, this is my way of life, we can start sharing information. And because every piece of science that we have is based off of what we know, we're limited by what we know.
Yeah.
And the same applies for them. Like, we can share information, and just from sharing information, we can get an extremely rich and wealthy amount of knowledge from each other just by sending shit to each other.
What if we sent them like how to make a nuclear bomb, like, and they think like, oh yeah, maybe this is like a new type of energy or something like that, and they accidentally blow themselves up, and that's us like having accidentally committed genocide on an entire planet?
No, I think that's on them.
Well, yeah. Whoa. What if we were to do that, right?
Yeah.
And
then we just blow them up.
Well, no. Because one of the things that was scary about making nuclear bombs here is that like we didn't know, like, there was like a non-0% chance that we were going to ignite the atmosphere.
Yeah, just the entire thing.
Yeah, the whole thing. And all of us would be dead if we did this, right? What if that non-zero percentage was like a very high percentage there, I would like to think that us sending each other blueprints of like nuclear weapons or nuclear fusion, right, is the equivalent of like me texting a stranger just a dick pic, like straight out of the blue. I would reckon that there's a little bit of getting to know each other first before that happens, like, before we send nuclear fusion blueprint to each other that might blow up their entire fucking planet, right? I reckon like before that, there's like, oh, what's your favorite food, What color is your sky, What do you guys do for fun, Here's a blueprint of a nuke. Like, what the fuck? What kind of bullshit is that? Like, that would be crazy if we accidentally did that, or like if we did that and then accidentally that ends up being like fucking them blowing themselves up.
That honestly would be pretty daunting. Like, we meet the only other stranger we know in the universe and we fucking blow them up.
Yeah. Like, what if we that could be any kind of piece of information that we send them, right? Like, what if like electricity would ignite their atmosphere, right? What if they found a different way to produce electricity, right? Okay. To produce light. Well, if we send like, hey, here's how we made a flashlight, right? Yeah. They're like, oh, let's try this. Boom! It just ignites the whole atmosphere and everyone fucking dies.
Then that's on them.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Because there's no instruction for us to be like, hey, make a flashlight. We said, hey, this is our flashlight. This is how it works. So if they made it and they blow themselves up, that's on them.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. It's kind of interesting.
I can be like, hey, look, this is bleach. We use it to clean clothes. This is ammonia. This is what we use to clear our toilet. And then they just fucking mix the thing and make mustard gas and kill everyone. That's not our fault.
I'm not saying it's not our fault, or I'm not saying it's our fault. It definitely would not be our fault, but it would be just kind of wild if the thing is like, if we did send something like as, small as a flashlight, right? And say if their version of a flashlight is different and they're like, oh, well, what if we want to try this? Like, you think that we would receive any kind of information with them and like we wouldn't want to try it, or at least we would look into it? Of course, if we're like, okay, well, this might ignite our atmosphere. Okay, well, let's not do it, right?
Yeah.
But like, what if it's something that we don't know, right? And we're like, oh shit, this is like a new element. What if we try to make this element? Or like,
Yeah.
like this is how they told us how to make this element, and this is something that's super doable. What if that one element, because we haven't discovered it yet and it's not on our planet, like is reactive to all of air, like infinitely like reactive to air, and that's what ignites our atmosphere, you know?
Well, hopefully, if such communication line happens and we start spending like space dick pics to each other,
space dick pics,
right?
Teaching each other how to ignite each other's atmosphere.
Yeah. I hope that whoever's in charge of this information receiving and, you know, sending it will be sensible enough to test all of that in theory first before trying it. So that we don't blow up our atmosphere. So we don't make their version of a nuke.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Oh man. But yeah, no, that would be wild.
That would be wild.
That'd be wild.
But I theorize that if that were to happen, we'll be sending very basic information at the beginning. Like, hey, this is our atmosphere.
No, of course. Yeah.
Like, our atmosphere is this many percent nitrogen, this and many percent like oxygen. And they'd be like, whoa, that's crazy. So if we make our flashlight on their planet, it would just fucking blow them up. You know, like I imagine that would happen
let's send them a flashlight. Oh man. And then like in 50 years, like we see like the light actually finally gets to us, and we just see it just light up. We're like, oh shit, they made it.
We just see the light goes like, thanks for the nuke recipe, and then it just you just see them light up.
Oh man. Fuck, dude.
Like they would just send the last message we received from them before we see them blow up. It's like, oh, is that the recipe for guac? Here we go.
Recipe for guac. We send them an avocado seed, and that blows them up. Oh man.
Like it's an invasive species that produce spores that's poisonous to their species, and we just fucking pull a zombie apocalypse on them with an avocado.
With an avocado. That'd be wild if like we send them an avocado seed, right? And we eventually get to their planet, they space travel, and then we realize we just killed them like that.
This is a SCP. So in one of the SCP, we find a parallel dimension to us where everyone's made of bananas, of fruits, right? Like so, there's like a bunch of banana people living their lives, like having their own version of Europe and France or whatever. Everyone's just bananas, and then we fucking figure out how to make a connection with them, and we start sending information to each other through this dimension, like portal thing, right? We can't directly interact, but eventually we figure out a way to just for us to visit them. So their version of Banana SCP Foundation and our version of Human Flesh Monkey SCP Foundation made a connection, and then our SCP researcher went to their world to research, and then we went back, and then like communication completely cuts out from that side for a little bit, and then a little bit later, like we get some sort of thing back from the portal as like the last survivor of the species, and what ended them was that on the researcher that went over to their world, there was a fucking fruit fly.
Bruh.
So the fruit fly basically bore into like, you know, their banana flesh and reproduced and acted as a deadly zombie virus for them.
Dude.
So that they all fucking died because of that one fruit fly from us.
Bruh.
Insane.
That's crazy.
That is crazy for that SCP. Like, that's what it reminded me of when you said, like, when we mentioned that avocado tree, like, blew them up.
Yeah.
Like,
fuck, dude.
I know, right?
That's the scary part of it, too. Like, there's so many things that are unknown there.
Exactly.
That, like, literally anything from them could, like, fuck us, you know?
Yeah.
Like, any kind of virus that, like, is maybe, like, the common cold for them could be, like, the next, like, black plague for us, you know?
Yeah.
Because, like, our system just does not know how to deal with it.
Exactly. Like, maybe something...
It could be like a new type of virus. Like, it could
honestly,
not be like a virus or a bacteria. It could be like a super cancer or something, you know, and just rape us.
A type of radiation that makes like all cell growth on us like completely uninhibited.
Fuck. Yeah.
then everyone becomes pieces of flesh just
Or just-
bursting. It was like,
Oh,
it would just
bro.
fucking explode. Yeah,
That'd be wild.
that would be wild.
Yeah, but then how would you like?
Maybe just like how electricity can be conducted through like, metal for us, that type of radiation is conductive to flesh,
For them.
like for us.
Oh, for us.
So like that type of radiation would basically just shoot through every nearby human being or like human cell, right? Or like
It
just
would
cell in
just
general, and it would
fuck
just
us.
fuck everyone. It would like instantly electrocute the entire population that has cell on our planet.
Yeah, and then like the hard part would be, right? Like they didn't do that on purpose. They didn't
really
know.
didn't. They just didn't
You know?
know.
And
It's
like
the same
say
shit with
if,
like the fucking
the
fruit
fruit
fly.
fly.
Like
Yeah.
we just didn't know. Like we were having a collaborative thing. Like we were having fun. We were exchanging information, and then boom, everything fucking blows up.
Yeah.
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 That would be insane.
You would think that they would have come up with like
Pesticides?
pesticides. There you go.
No, here's the thing about the SCP thing. They never had flies. Flies wasn't a concept to them. It just didn't fucking exist.
But if they were smart enough to have like an SCP Foundation type of thing that was
Yeah.
like around the same kind of like if we're on the same spot, right? You would think that they would have come up with some kind of pesticide.
No, so
you know?
for the thing, for like the SCP story, right? Like the fruit fly didn't infect them like immediately. Like it bore a hole in them, but because they don't have like the same nerve system that we do, they didn't know what was in them until they fucking killed them and like burst it out in fly larvas.
Yeah.
So they just
That's
didn't
fair.
know because they couldn't feel it or anything. Like they
That's
just
fair.
knew that something was wrong, and then
Fuck.
like a cold or something, and then fucking flies just start bursting out of them.
The fuck the
And then like how the fuck are you supposed to prevent like flies? It's so hard to kind of like catch. I think about how hard it is for us to catch flies.
Yeah.
Like next to impossible if we didn't have any tools that's specifically made for killing flies to begin with,
Yeah.
right? So like, yeah, for them it will be whatever. But also at the same time, you have to remember that this started in the SCP Foundation.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I guess if it takes out the SCP
So
Foundation,
it
like,
takes out the SCP
everyone's
Foundation
fucked.
first before everything else happens, you know?
Yeah.
Which kind of makes sense because like if something is to come into contact with us, our smartest, most capable organization would be handling that first.
Yeah.
So
and
if
it
it's something
takes
that they
them out
can
first.
foresee and takes out the smartest group of people first, then the rest of us is fucked.
Yeah.
Yeah, crazy to think about.
Fuck, dude. That's some crazy shit.
Yep.
Well, what are we at?
Yep. We are at 2 hours exactly, almost. What do you want to do?
Goodbye. No, I'm just kidding.
All right.
I'm just kidding.
Thanks
Yeah.
for listening to us talk about
A bunch of
politics, space genocide,
Space genocide. Hillbillies nuking themselves.
nuking each other.
Oh, fuck.
If you want to hear more random bullshit from us for the next episode, remember to check out our shit on Spotify. We have fucking like 40 plus episodes of these bitches
Yeah.
just lying around. And our dear friend Josh, who's trying to commit unspeakable atrocities in Europe at the moment, for legal reasons, as a joke.
For legal reasons.
He will probably be back after the next week. So this episode that you're hearing right now, another episode the week after, and then he will probably be back. So rest assured, someone will be back eventually by the end of the month to derail us from talking about space genocide and how the Jews have a space laser and everything.
Yeah.
Thanks for sitting through our bullshit. We also have a YouTube channel that you can check out. We have like, sandwich tier list, gameplays, a bunch of stuff on there. You can go to Patreon to hear all of the stuff that we cut out of our episodes. If you join us and you pay whatever amount that we put up,
$1,
$1
I think.
apparently. If you want to pledge $1 a month, right? Like enough money that you will forget about it. If you like drop a dollar bill somewhere, right? You will just not even worry about it, right?
Yeah.
If you just drop that dollar bill towards our direction, you get to hear uncut versions of all of these episodes.
Yeah.
You get to help Lino
Lino's
smell
nose.
again.
Lino's.
Lino's.
Yeah, Lino's.
Rate us, give us 5 stars. We're on every single platform. Follow us on Instagram. We upload pictures there sometimes.
Sometimes.
that's related to our episode and links and all that. We also have a Discord server if you want to see our dumbass podcast ideas. And if you want to yell racial slur at us, that's the best place to go.
Racial slurs. And if you're Jewish, let me know how I can rent your space laser.
Yeah, and what time it will be flying over, the U.S.
Just let me know when it's in the Western Hemisphere, and
we'll contact you and try to rent the space.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyways, bye.
Goodbye.